for those of us watching us at home on YouTube, please know you can still make a public comment. Just shoot us an email at admin@westlakecharter.com. In the subject line, put the topic you wish to comment on, and then when you submit your comment, please try to limit to 250 words. We will do our best to read them in, and if we don't get the chance, they will be included in our minutes. With that, Amy, will you please take the roll?
Yes. Hope?
Here.
Sean?
Here.
Josh? Meredith?
Here.
Amber?
It's not working. Here.
Hi, Amber.
It still works. We got you on there.
Suzanne?
Here.
Nurali?
Here.
Amy?
Here.
And Ann?
Here.
So every other microphone's working. We're gonna talk real loud tonight, everybody.
We'll be loud.
Real good projection.
We could do it. That brings us to celebrations. I have a cheesy one real fast. Thank you for having the heat on. It is.
Oh yeah.
It is actually almost comfortable in here tonight, Steve Corbin. Did you have anything to do with this? No. I'll actually go first on there too. You mentioned it was 2024. Sean and I mean, I'm sure you all have big things this year, but I feel like, Sean and I we have former explorers graduating in May and June, and so I'm just sort of had a target on this year for a long time, and it's interesting to finally, I can't believe we're here. Like, where did the, whatever 12 years I've been on this board go? So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Now with that, sorry, just go first. I just thought, I just have full of energy today. Meredith, would you mind going next, or
Sure.
I can take it across? Okay.
I'll celebrate everyone who worked so hard to put together the staff party right before break.
Oh, yeah.
I think everyone had a really great time. It was lovely to see people just like finding their tribes across like all sorts of different people. All the Westlake staff that ran the CAM found each other, and like we took a picture with our race medals, and it felt like a fun way to cap off this semester and go into break.
That was great. Team did a great job.
Thank you. Amber?
So I get to visit a lot of schools, particularly in the mornings around Natomas. Can you hear me? Is that a thumbs up?
Yeah, it was thumbs up. Your audio looked pretty good, but if you can point that mic toward her, Meredith, just a little bit there.
And so today I was here at Westlake, and I was walking off campus, and I heard my favorite Ellie Batten over there, who is here in the audience, doing morning lineup. And so I love Mrs. Batten, of course, but I really love that we do this at this campus, because no other school I go to does morning lineup. They sometimes do it once a week or once a month, but we do it every single morning here at the K-5 for the K-5 group, and I just love it that we still do that. I think there's a lot of community building, there's a lot of staff members out there, and then there's a lot of families who stay, so I just love that we do that.
I love it. Yeah, Batten, you did it this morning. You've done it a few times. You made a few guest appearances. Yeah, it's great. What a great time. I love it.
Bring it back.
Ms. Patel, you're going to have to celebrate nice and loud for us down there.
Sure. I'm going to celebrate the community. During the Christmas time, my car broke down. I had packages everywhere that I wasn't present for. And somebody in the neighborhood had an unfortunate passing in their family. It was such an awesome time getting to know new neighbors in my 2-block courts, getting to do all this community service. Somebody works for a church and asked for volunteers to take my kids to do service. It was such a great community building event, and now I feel like I actually know my neighbors. So I am going to celebrate the community in which we all live in.
I love it. Well, you guys whip the celebrations around. I'm going to try and fix this mic. See if I can fix it.
Yeah, because Jessica Block's at home.
Yeah,
She's like, are they not working?
Is yours? Yours works.
Mine is working.
We love you, Jessica Block.
I will celebrate the optional workday, staff workday on Monday. It was great to put it out there for staff to come in and participate, and we had some staff sign up. And by 8 o'clock, the parking lot out here was just like packed. And so it was great just to see so many staff here on campus ready to collaborate. And I hope everyone had a restful break prior to that. But it was a great day.
Thank you, Steve. Sam?
Yeah, I'm going to celebrate that day too, because my oldest goes to the high school and my youngers don't go to Westlake. They go to a different school, but she had an extra day off and she was super happy about that. So I felt like she went back to school on Tuesday raring to go. So that was a really cool thing that you had for students.
Love it.
I had a Tuesday starter too, so I understand.
I love that. So I'm going to celebrate. My son and I love to take road trips. It's been a little while. It's been 2 years. The last placement was Joshua Tree.
Oh,
and
love
we
it.
just planned a trip to Death Valley.
great thing to look forward to.
Sean?
I will do a celebration that people have done previously in other meetings, but this time it's for my own kiddo. One of my kiddos just got his driver's license on Friday. And did his first solo drive today. So that was horrifying watching him leave, but it was also very cool because I've had quite the day, and with having to do what he was able to do, I'm not sure I'd have been able to do everything I had to do. So it was perfectly timed.
Love it.
Life 360 if you don't have
I
it
have it.
I will celebrate the collaboration between high school and K-8. I sat yesterday in a committee meeting for leadership, and it was fascinating to just be around teachers who my daughter knows and also loves, and then also to hear them and to hear what is important to them in their space and in their craft. And so I just want to, I don't know, celebrate the fact that, like, I teach kindergarten, and there were teachers who teach 9th grade and 10th grade and 11th grade in that room who I've danced silly dances with in a talent show, but also now who my daughter has a Spanish class with. And I'm just so grateful for the community that we have, not just as teachers, not just as admin, but also as families who, like, we get to see and be with our children's teachers in very real ways that I think maybe supports our children in ways that we don't even realize. And so I'm so grateful for that. So anyway, that's my celebration.
Yeah, that's a gift. That's a gift. Strangely, I was constructing a full inclusion capacity building module for a professional development engagement that we have coming up. I'm looking at Meredith because she's doing an expert job supporting me trying to figure out how to build this thing. I'm working with Christina Ike on the project. But today we uncovered a video that was produced in 2018 when Eben was in kindergarten, and we were celebrated at the SELPA as a model school for full inclusion. And I clicked on this video because I thought about including it in this learning module. And I'm not kidding. I stood there and watched this video and got... And it was like this beautiful reminder of the community that we are. Danielle Christie was in the video, and Eben and his mother Vanessa were in the video. Maureen Weiner, who was the teacher that year, that next year when he was in first grade. It was just a really cool, like, oh, that's right, man. We've all traveled so far together, and yet we're still on this similar path of serving kids in such a fun and unique way. And I thought, oh, it's so great to have these reminders from whence we came. So, yeah, it was a really cool video. I may forward it to you so you have an opportunity to click on it soon, because it'll remind you a little part of Westlake, you know. What do you got, A-Deb?
So I have a few positions open on our program aid team, and today interviewed somebody who was a student of ours. And I know we've talked about this before because we've hired a couple students, but my daughters both graduated from college recently, so I'm feeling, every bit of my 55 years, almost 56 years. Nothing makes you feel old like interviewing a student that you've known since they were like this big, and they're like, "Hi, Miss Wells." I'm like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" Remember me? Yep, sure do. But it's fun, and it's wonderful because during the conversation she was asking these really great questions, and she said, "I just am so excited to hopefully be back," and like I love the idea of being on this side of things, and I was like, "Me too." So
Love it.
I don't know how to celebrate that, but it was fun. It was
You
a good
just
day.
did.
I just did.
Well done.
Yeah, there you go.
We always love hearing about how our explorers come full circle.
Yeah, and they want to be back and to be part of the other side of the program. That's cool.
Any board comments for items not on the agenda? Yes.
I have one quick comment. I attended the NUSD Community Engagement event last night at Heron, and we had a lot of other Westlake families there, which was great to see. And I just want to encourage anyone who wants to learn more, get involved. There's 2 more events that are coming up, and the first one is a virtual event on the 18th, and that's the standard NUSD event, and then there's a charter event later that night at Star Academy from 6 to 8 p.m. And I think it's really informative, and hopefully more of our community will get out there and get involved.
I'm going to assume there's none, but I'll look right here. Seeing none.
That brings us to reports, and what I'm just noticing is, so we didn't have wave report tonight, and the committees took December off for the holidays.
That's right.
So I think if everyone's okay with that, I might just jump to your report, Dr. Ike. Does that work? Okay, perfect.
Very, very good. All right. Well, we'll dive right in and do some celebrations. We'll do some strategic action. I don't know who did that, but it might have been Cahigas trying to chime in. Nope, it was Sean Berman, everybody. Ding, 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 ding. But we did forget to ask if there was any public comment at the high school, which is why Sean did that. Sean, thank you for grabbing our attention. Well done. Hey, Cahigas, is there anyone making public comment at the high school?
There is not.
Very well, very well. Far less dramatic than what we just went through, but thank you. Could you hear the feedback on the mic?
I could.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And I have earbuds too.
Okay.
So
Okay. Well, sorry about that. And thank you, Cahigas. Appreciate you for chiming in and for looking out at the high school. Okay. With that said, we'll dive into my report. Well, thanks, everybody. Happy New Year. It is 2024. It is my first board report of 2024. Very excited. We will talk celebrations, strategic actions, and updates. Obviously, we have lots to celebrate that just kind of came out of that after the board meeting in December. Our first ever Westlake Charter High School Black Box Theater theatrical performance was a smash hit, sold out crowds, two performances on one given evening, and they also performed to some of their colleagues during, I believe, a flex block during the day. As you may or may not recall, that classroom used to just be a classroom, but we went out and invested in masonite hardboard for the floor, black gaffer's tape, gallons of black paint, painted the floors, painted the walls, hung the black drape, and now that classroom has been converted into a theatrical space, and it is magic. If you've not been in a small theater like this, the brilliance of it is that the students can speak as quietly as they need to, and the audience is so close they can feel the right there. It's really a cool space. So the kids did a great job. The amazing teacher, Mr. Brandon Rubin. This is his first Black Box production, and we're looking forward to more brilliant performances to come. Speaking of brilliant performances, what happens when you put a movie night on at the K-8 and fill the gym full of kids? It was a blast, put on by our WAVE team. We had a movie night. Everybody brought out the blankets, the pajamas, the popcorn, the cotton candy, and good times were had by all. All the things that are being celebrated here are just the projects, the way that we express learning, specifically at the high school this time. And it is that, in social science, the kids had the option if they could write an essay to respond to some critical questions, but if they preferred, they could podcast, which is a great, playlist opportunity to say, hey, you express your learning, you express your demonstration of mastery in a way that's comfortable for you. So you've got poster presentations and podcasts and the written word, as well as you'll notice up there in the far right corner, the opportunity to be interviewed. Hey, explain to me what it is you know and demonstrate mastery in that way. And this is a really innovative educational concept that I think we should all be very proud of as a board of directors. It is very common that at the end of the semester you have finals, and everyone takes the exact same final. And that final maybe is filling in bubbles. Why do we fill bubbles? Because that's the best pedagogical way to check mastery? No, because it's the fastest way to grade something. And so this offers our children the opportunity to demonstrate mastery in ways that are unique as their learning styles. And so I love that our teachers do this. Our staff go the extra mile, and trust me, it is at least an extra mile, maybe 3 miles. I mean, it's a lot harder to check mastery this way than it is by the conventional methods that are utilized in lots of other places. So good on us, our teachers doing some phenomenal things. Holidays around the world, if you've never been here for it, is a great opportunity for our upper elementary students and middle school students to collaborate with our lower elementary students. So your fifth grade, kids come down and collaborate with the third graders, and the sixth graders are down with the first graders, and each room celebrates a different holiday from around the world, and they manifest in different art projects, and it is cool, man. You go in and you see, sixth graders jamming with third graders, And it is magical. It's a cool opportunity not to only explore holidays around the world, but for these kids to explore, big buddy classes and things like that. Our staff party, as mentioned by Dr. Galloway, thank you for doing so, was completely facilitated by the amazing Ashley Cahigas, who looks like it's still on the screen, so good job, Cahigas. Cahigas, obviously Melissa Grunholt's whole team, Amanda Antonio, they thematically put together a party that kind of mirrors this, Westlake Charter staff is out of this world. As you recall, we launched this logo at the beginning of the school year when we put Everest the Explorer in this rocket ship and said we are counting down to launch in 2025. So based on that silly little theme right there, this entire out of this world party was put together with a black light corner where you could leave a glow in the dark celebration sticker, where the food was even thematic. They got falafel balls because they said, well, the falafel ball looks like a planet, so you can make your own planet bowl. I'm like, oh, you guys are doing too much. I love it. Westlake never passes the opportunity to come up with a good theme. So many great opportunities. People, for our kind of Zen corner, you can either make slime or one of these shake up glitter things that's a calming jar. But we glued the lid on it because you don't want to send glitter home to my house. That is a no-no. Great party. Lots of fun had by all. And like Meredith said, it was just cool to see our staff have a couple hours of just kind of being silly. We did a give back project this year. Our students and our staff wrote notes to children in Shriners Hospital and attached those notes to these little art kits. And we packed them all up and we shipped those art kits off to Shriners Hospital as a give back project. We do a give back project every year. And so, yeah, it was great. You should read some of the notes that were sent by our 6th and 7th graders, the leadership kids. They wrote these moving notes saying to children they'd never met before in Shriners, you're not alone. We're on this journey with you. We love you. You're like, oh, it was moving. Pajama Day is also moving. There's your principal right there, dressed up as a gingerbread woman, and she went down to kindergarten, where they have recently lost the gingerbread man. You may have heard the gingerbread man has been on the missing. Pajama Day was a blast to end out the new year, and now here we are in 24, ready to start all over. I'm going to talk through some strategic actions. I thought I was going to list them, but I guess I'm not. I'm going to just jump right into the first one. Our first strategic action that we're going to talk about is Board Goal 1, receive analysis regarding K-12 student outcomes that support initiatives that are in alignment with the graduate profile and preparation for future reauthorization. And that is coupled with the Executive Director Goal 1, analyze available academic and social emotional data with regular reports to the Board of Directors on student outcomes in alignment with graduate profile. That was a mouthful of words. All I'm here to tell you is that I've got some really good work happening right now with the Director of Curriculum Instruction that is beginning to create this annual reporting calendar with 3 different grain sizes. Tier 1, when I report to you and to the public, that's universal data. This is what and your reporting cycle is already pretty regular, but I'm going to share with the board how we do Tier 2 data, which is when does the administrative team and student support service leads look at data, and then Tier 3, which is the most critical and private data, when do teaching teams look at their data without any of us looking over their shoulder, and we're putting together that reporting cycle so that it's in writing. I'm going to bring it up, I think, through governance. So we get to look at it, and then I'm going to make sure the board gets it published inside your documentation, just so you know what we're doing on a very regular basis to address goals 1 and 1 there. Any questions on that? Cool. I suspect it'll influence some of the work we do at Impact as well, but I thought I would bring that out today and let you know there's some really good work happening. I expect by next month to at least have a kind of a cool little draft for you. Well, now you'll know what's coming because you can see the portables in the picture over there. Well, here it comes. Board Goal 2, right? We're working on the successful expansion of our school, including appropriate investments in the short-term and long-term facilities. So let's talk a little facilities for the high school. Short-term, we're going to continue to serve our students next year at 4400 East Commerce, right? That's the plan. East Commerce, we know, is sized to fit about 375 students, which we are at 385 students right now. 379 actually. Yeah, right. So we're at capacity right now. Well, that's a problem because you don't have any seniors yet, right? You know that. So next year, you're going to have all 500 children there, roughly. And so we need to expand. So 5 portable classrooms can be added that will then allow us to serve 500. So I'm working with Natomas Unified School District on that. Got some good news this week on that. Portables have now been approved by Buzz Oates, who's the owner of the building. That was a bit of a barrier, like, hey, we're thinking about putting $2 million worth of portables back here. You guys okay with that? Tried to ask if they'd pay for it. They were not interested in that, but they did authorize the portables to be there. So we also had a bit of a barrier. This actually just got updated this morning. Sacramento Emergency Services had to determine whether or not you could do a hammerhead turnaround in front of these portables, and we shared with them the schematics. And then the Natomas Unified team was working with Emergency Services, and they just gave it the green light today. So as of today, the barriers are not structural or permission from the organizations involved. So we are discussing portables right now outside of the FUA to escalate the timeline. As I reported to you before, if you're going to drop portables, you need to kind of ink the contract January, early February, because it's 6 months to get portables dropped out there. We got to run electrical. There's some subterranean. There's a lot of work to do. So we would have to ink that like now. Well, we can't seem to get to agreement on the FUA right now. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. So we said let's deal with the portables outside of the FUA so that Natomas Unified and Westlake Charter School can continue negotiating on FUA while still executing on the portables in a timely fashion. And so that's where we've arrived now. The current estimated cost that's to be shared for the 5 portables for 3 years is $1.9 million, which is up from the $1.2 million that we thought it was going to be. So that's a lot of money. It's really expensive to get them, install them, and then after the 3-year lease is up, every subsequent year after that, I believe is, in today's dollars anyway, roughly $40,000 per unit per year going forward. So the cost drops off, but this, the first 3 years is incredibly expensive. We don't know how that money is going to be shared. Obviously, I'd like to pay zero, but I'm not sure that's what's going to happen. And so we're working on that shared cost. We've obviously, we're looking at our budget and saying, okay, if we had to share what portion of that cost, what would that do? I mean, that's a significant 3-year expenditure. 1/3 of $1.9 million. Or one half of $1.9 million cut into 3. So we'll report back as we know more about that. Any questions about portables or the timeline of the work to get that done? No? Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a this red line will be a new fence line. If anybody recognizes the Oasis here, and this as kind of parking lot area, if you put this red fence line around here and some portables back here, this actually expands this Oasis all the way out here, and gets you another 10,000 square feet of open space for students, and maybe put some like portable shade out there and different things, or maybe a basketball hoop. I don't know, but it's kind of exciting. Yeah, in Raleigh. Yeah, it's a good question. In fact, I don't have a slide on this, but I will share with you that we are reaching out to, I can't remember his name. Jeff Dorso. Jeff, if you're watching, he's the what is he? What do you call that? Yeah, like an attorney type guy for the Kings, right? Yeah. Oh, you know him, Amber call him. Okay, great. So, anyway, we're reaching out to him because they own this private road right here. And so we've gone out and measured, and we've drawn up, those hash marks that would be horizontal parking, diagonal parking slots along here. We had a number, it's 36 on this side and 33 on that side, or 3 on that side. So we think you can get parking here and here, but that's not owned by us, so we're asking it for permission to do that. We've also gone through and numbered all the spots, because what we recognize is like, yes, we're running out of spots. However, there isn't a lot of parking that has been happening back here. So it's really not a lot of parking loss. The big loss is the drop off. I drive back here, I turn around, I drop off my student here. So that's the big change in parking lot traffic. Good question. Any other question about this? Yeah?
What will the change be in the parking lot
We don't know. We don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, I could certainly report back though if you'd like. I'm sure someone smarter than me is thinking about it. I'm in charge of portables, not drop-off. Okay. Well, that's it. Meredith, everybody turn on your mics too. It's okay.
Are there any anticipated time of day impacts with just like transition periods that might need to be longer for students transitioning in and out of buildings? Are they
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, again, I'm in charge of the $1.9 million portable installation, and it did take me a ton of work as far as parking lots and time schedules. I'm going to turn that over to the principal for sure. Yeah, I'm assuming that someone's going to stand in Susie Threadgill's room and hit go and walk all the way out there and go, how long did that take? And then determine if passing periods need to be elongated. I'm sure somebody's doing that. Right. Let me stop over here. Every teenager can make it on time. Every teenager who we know can't because they stop and talk to three friends and, the water fountain, yeah. No, I don't know. I think I've heard talk of people talking about that. I just haven't been part of it. I think the PBIS team would be a natural home run for that, but I'll leave both those conversations up to the site admin for sure. Yeah, Ms. Rice.
So my question is along those same lines. Can we as a board suggest to admin or to PBIS that it might be beneficial for them to like mark off the spaces where that diagonal parking would be in the future and maybe see what the impact would be to like parent pickup for like the lower grades or for the transition periods to other classes? Can we as a board request that or no?
Yeah, you probably would direct me. You as a board would go, hey, John, you know what you should think about, and then Amy would write it down, and then I would send it to somebody super smart to think about it, yeah.
Well, I would also say it's January, and so, I mean, in the normal course of things, I wouldn't have expected all this to be worked out yet anyway.
100%.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
Yeah, notes from the board include like, hey, make sure passing periods are measured, and what happens to turn around and drop off. And honestly, I don't know that we'll get that diagonal parking spot. I mean, I don't know if the Kings want to engage in that type of liability, but we'll certainly ask. Yeah, and also I was asking if we can maybe meet DeMontis Sabonis. I was just. He can come out with that. It's okay. If you're watching, DeMontis, I watch you all the time. Any other questions? I don't mean to be dismissive. I don't have any of the answers that you want. I'm so sorry, but I will take those to the team. Yeah, passing periods for sure. Parking and the turnaround drop off is like, especially for the ninth graders, because this is such a nice. This actually works so well. The current turnaround drop off zone is just the right size. It's hard to lose it, but it's also hard to not have a classroom to teach in. So it'll be very nice. Just to be clear, I meant to say it, and I think I did, but with the 5 portables, no teacher will not have a room. There'll be no shared rooms, and that's kind of a critical load space for us, right? As we talk about the next slide, which is our future permanent campus, we have calculated how many rooms do you have to build to ensure that every program, every classroom, every teacher has a classroom, because we don't want to end up in a space where we're having to share class spaces. Because if you've ever done that, I've taught at the high school when that happened, and it's a real burden. It's real hard. Other questions about this? Super duper. So let's talk. The long term, the facility use agreement must be renewed, as you know, by June of 24. So we're down to the final on this. We got 3 months probably to get it really buttoned up and done, because it's got to get to the NUSD board, it's got to get to Westlake's board, and so the discussions items are, as I'm sure you're already aware, language describing the construction of a permanent campus. We would like to have language that says, when the time comes, if a bond should pass, let's all build a campus together. The Natomas Unified School District is less excited about putting that type of language into the FUA, and that's where we're at working. We also have placed in there the shared use of athletics facilities until a future campus is built. As you know, our soccer team plays at Tanzanite, and our JV and varsity boys and girls basketball teams are using our gymnasium, which, what a gift. I'm so glad we have it. However, it would be nice to have expanded use of facilities. And so, H. Allen Height is right here. They have an all-weather track and field. Would be great for our soccer program. There's been some barriers to maybe getting to that, but with this signed FUA and an inclusion of shared facility use, we could get something like that put in there. And then, the designation of the new property to be used. I mean, the FUA has to say, Westlake is buying this piece of property that we're currently in escrow on. It'll be that property upon which we will build a future campus, and all of that is currently in. Now, as you know, I've been meeting with Angela Herrera from the Natomas Unified School District every month since September to finalize this, and a lot of the FUA is getting buttoned up quite nicely. To be honest, the last part is the do we or do we not agree that we should put in writing that a future bond would escalate the process to construct something. So that's where we are. We're at the final, how do we make this happen? And there's been lots of creative work done to describe how this could and or should happen. And we'll just keep chipping away at what's possible until we're able to demonstrate what's possible. Progress. All of our elected officials with Westlake Charter School constituents have been briefed on the current situation. So your state senator from this area to both of your city council members I've met with personally, each of them. I've met with all elected Natomas Unified School District board members and a couple of them more than once. I've met with several NUSD staff members. So nobody's unaware of what it is you are asking as a board. Your ask is well documented. And now people have to figure out, hey, how can we make this happen? Because all of these elected officials have constituents that are shared constituents with you as board members, right? Cost estimates for construction have been provided by Cody Carpino, who was the architect who did the original renderings that you see on the screen back when Cody worked for William and Patton, not William and Sonoma. I always say that wrong. Cody worked for William and Patton. Now Cody works for a new shop and was willing to do some work for us to get some cost estimates based on this. And those cost estimates were provided by Cumming, who does this. Inside of cost estimates, it was, hey, what would it cost to build this many square feet today? What does a cost escalation look like over the last 12 months and projected out over the next 12 months? What is the cost escalation, including a 20% contingency? We recognize that a 20% contingency is very high, and we would hope to come in somewhere closer to 8 to 10% contingency, but you build it in because we are saying this is an affordable construction project out of the next bond. It can be done, and it can be done for far less dollars than people expect it to be done. And when I say to people that it can be done for a certain amount, it's hard to believe me because what do I know about constructing a project? But Cody and the Cumming folks have done the calculations down to the dime, and so we have very compelling cost estimates that we have shared now with all of the NUSD staff that are pertinent. So they are well aware of what we are asking and what will actually cost in real dollars, including escalation, to make this project come to fruition. We have now begun work to consider a phased approach. Hey, if you wanted to build this entire campus with all the bells and whistles, or hey, maybe this bell and this whistle could wait till phase 2. What do you actually need? I mean, we definitely need 30 classrooms, so everybody has their own classroom. We think we need an admin office, a cafetorium, and some type of gymnasium facility, maybe a soccer field and a parking lot, and from there you could grow. That's where we are. I will be meeting with Angela again in the next week. I spoke with her today. And her and I are going to be touring the high school facility next week. Any questions about this? The questions about this I probably got answers to. The parking lot thing. I mean, really, this is more my show. What Board Member Husted mentioned was true. The Natomas Unified School District, is it the next thing, is currently developing a facilities master plan, and that's part of their presentations that they're doing across Natomas this next week. And on the 18th, at Star Academy, they're holding a facilities master planning night just for charter schools for us to come out and say, hey, what would you like in a future facilities master plan? But everybody in the district is having the opportunity to speak to that. So, we are well aware that the district wants to develop what they're calling the Upper West Side, which is the 88-acre campus over west of East Commerce, which would, could be a $250 million high school facility project. Doesn't leave much else in anybody's budget to consider building, so that's why I think there's a little pushback. But it's important for our community to have their voice heard, and so these nights are a good opportunity for our community to show up and say, hey, we're Natomas residents. We pay property tax. We're going to pay for this bond if a bond passes. We're voters. We elect people. And this is what our community would like to see done with bond dollars. So if anybody wants to go on the 18th, that is a good opportunity there. Yeah, Suzanne.
Has NUSD indicated when they might be looking at a bond?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I stall because I'm trying to think of how to answer it. Yeah, no, I'm trying to think. So we've, for a long time, been reading the tea leaves saying, hey, they're going to try and get a bond on the ballot in 24. Earlier this year, there was a lot of reluctance to say that out loud from my counterparts, with good reason. They're like, hey, we're not going to say out loud we're trying to pass a bond because we want to walk up to this smartly. So right now, they have not really discussed bonding capacity, even at the NUSD board level. So we're expecting in the next couple of board cycles that they'll probably discuss bonding capacity, at which point that will, combine with this facilities master plan endeavor that they're doing. I don't know that from a timeline perspective, it behooves them to come out and discuss a dollar amount for bonding capacity until they have the facilities master plan in hand. I think the community would probably want to see, hey, we listened to you, and you guys came up with $500 billion worth of, $500 million worth of expenditures, and we have the bonding capacity for $190 million. So that demonstrates, an offset. But we do hear the governor, you'll hear in tonight's report, I believe, the governor is still in support of potential construction bonds on the ballot in 24. And that would make a lot of sense for local bonds to also be on the ballot in 24. So we think in November 24 there'll be a bond initiative, and I think it's not unreasonable to think it could be somewhere in the area of up to $200 million, but probably not higher than that in Natomas. Yeah. Any other questions on that? I can talk about it all night. No, that's good. I love it. This is what I do all day, is stare at these little maps. Very good. I'll try to do updates quickly, and then I'll hand over to Steve's got some updates for you. We're going to talk optional staff workday, application lottery, and then the governor's budget. And there's Mr. Hatch's group on a little field lesson. Optional workday, when we talked about the calendar 2 months ago, one of the things we talked about was Halloween. Is there a big drop-off? And last month I reported there's a 1% drop-off after Halloween. But the other thing we talked about was like, hey, you got these optional workdays built into the calendar, and are they useful? Do people like them? Are they going to use them this year? Well, I've got some data. We had 64 staff participate in the optional workday on Monday. That represents 77% of all certificated teaching, TOSA, and counseling psychology staff. Thought that was a very good showing. We also had all grade levels and departments represented. So you had kindergarten, primary, middle school, elementary, office, high school. Departmentally, it was very widely utilized, and maybe anecdotally, but qualitative data is still data. During the leadership meeting, high school and K-8 staff celebrated the value of the day. I had more than one person approach me and go, hey, just heads up, this is a really good thing. This day really works for me. It really is useful. And even at the leadership team meeting, there was some conversation around the teacher leaders saying, maybe we should get together, put our heads together, survey staff, and advise the board on when these days are best used. Is it best used after winter break, after February break, after spring break, or would we take one of these and slip it back here to October? Is there any logic to embedding a day into a vacation week or not? So I think we've done a good job as a board advocating for our teaching staff, but the teaching staff sound like they maybe like to take a crack at advising us now on how these days get utilized going forward. But having said that, I know the calendar is on the agenda tonight, and I thought I would just report out that it seems like the day was certainly well received this month. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns there? Moving on. Quick little lottery update. As you know, we are in the middle of lottery season. Today is January 15th, and it closes on January 11th, the last day of January. It's the 11th. Sure is. So we got a couple You got 20 days left. 20 days left exactly. Thank you, Hope. But don't wait till the last day if you're out there. Yeah, right. Okay, so as of this point, back in 2020, we had 1,100, and then we went to 1143 to 1184 to 1228, and we had a huge year last year, and we're a little below last year, but we're still ahead of the previous year. We're right now at 1,302, which is less than last year, but that was a big year last year. I mean, I don't know. However, it's nice to see that even if we aren't beating year after year, we are, we're certainly outperforming previous years. And here is your high school breakdown. You currently have 114 ninth graders, which is right around where we were this time last year, which is great. I mean, we know that about half the eighth graders are going to go up. We're leaving about 50 to 60 spots, and so we'll fill those spots well. 8 10th graders, 4 11th graders, and we have 11 12th graders, which is really surprising. Now, you have 385, I know 379, but like we projected for 385 9th through 11th graders. If we take in 150 freshmen next year, we're going to be over 500. So even though, and you'll get this, but even though this may wreak a little havoc in the master schedule, you may not take on any 12th graders, even though you've kind of technically got like these 12th grade spots, because 12th grade is now at 150 kids. But we've kind of said at NUSD we'll be about 500 kids, and we don't want to get too much bigger. So while we have, we're just in our 4th year, we're outperforming anyone's projections. Remember when we met with Silicon Schools 4 years ago, they're like, don't project 500. It's just don't count on that happening. We're like, uh-oh. Well, thanks for the advice. Yeah, so, we're outperforming our own projections. We're doing well, but we are still learning about matriculation. There's no real pattern yet of how many kids come and how many kids matriculate, because kids have left. We've lost some kids in the summer. And so we're tracking that, and we'll go through at least another 4-year cycle after this next year and really start to know, what the matriculation pattern looks like. Outreach, obviously, Natomas Buzz, some postcards, some Facebook, word of mouth, all the things. Any questions about outreach and lottery? Lottery will be held on March 5th. Says it up there, right? March 5th? It'll be held on the first Monday in March every year. First Monday in March. Very good. Okay, well, that brings us to the governor's. Yeah, try this because it'll be just funny. Yeah, that way, because you got your own little your own cadence, pace. Yes, let's see if it works. I think I got it working. If it doesn't work for everybody on YouTube, if the slides don't work, it was my fault. It was on me. I think it's gonna work.
Same way I think John knows his cadence by now, but maybe not.
You think I would? I think I do. All right, off to you, Steve.
Thanks. Thank you much. All right, here we go. First click. Hey, it's working. All right, there we go. Governor Newsom came out with his budget proposal yesterday morning. Again, I've kind of italicized proposal because it is just a proposal at this point. Nothing's written in stone except for his document. But it really just kicks off the next couple of months when he and the legislature will start to negotiate on what next year's statewide budget may look like. So again, this is just his pitch. He's come out this year and last year with this capital gains slide, really to show the volatility of capital gains tax, and kind of reiterated how sensitive the California budget is to personal income tax. It was interesting this year because he was intent on keeping a lot of the promises that he made in the past. And you can see kind of what some of those promises are. So he's keeping a lot of the spending going, again, which is really somewhat interesting. So, as I see nodding in the audience. His proposal, though, did largely spare education from a lot of the different cuts, which is beneficial to us. You'll see up here some of the COLAs we've seen over the past couple of years. We had a phenomenal COLA in 22-23, cost of living adjustment, in 23-24, together almost at about 15%. Earlier this year in July, the COLA was projected to be 3.94% going into next year. but with his most recent January proposal, really slashed that a little bit further down to less than 1%. So while the years of COLA and one-time funds have really been quite fruitful for budgets over these past couple years, it's really getting cut pretty thin here again in his proposal. He also did recognize a $38 billion deficit, which he intends to address in a couple different ways. And if you've been following the discussion over the past couple months, you may say, oh, it's not working. Oh no. There it is. So yeah, so a month ago, thanks John for the save, you say, hey, Corvin, weren't you talking about like a $68 billion deficit? And yes, we were, right? You had folks from KCRA, Wall Street Journal, like up and down the state saying, hey, the state's facing a $68 billion deficit. So what gives, really, right? Is it 38 billion or 68 billion? And where are we on these things? And again, what's a few billion amongst friends? So let me introduce you to Joe here on the screen. So Joe is the director of the Department of Finance. Department of Finance provides financial information up to the governor. And really, without reading this word-for-word dissertation here, really it comes down to that underlined bullet point there. And that is that the LEO's model has this recession indicator built into it. So the LEO that reports up to the legislature that is predicting a $68 billion deficit has this recession indicator, which is throwing off their projections or their differences by about $30 billion. So I kind of equate this to like if you've ever seen like the storm systems, right? Like, oh, this storm might hit Galveston, or if it moves in the European model, it might hit Boston, right? They're like, it's gonna come in somewhere, but no one knows really like quite where it's gonna hit. So we'll wait and see over the next couple months, like who is gonna be true and what model is going to be most accurate, and it'll be interesting to see.
So wouldn't you likely say it may be somewhere in the middle? Or do you think that one of them is right?
Well, I don't think either one of them is right. So, right, but they are probably right somewhere-ish, right? Could be in the middle, right? And that's actually an interesting point, because if it is the governor's $38 billion, right, and it gets slightly worse, 10 billion, 15 billion, and he's already brought down his proposal on a COLA to 0.76. Like, where else, what other tools is he going to implement to like make up that additional 10 or 15 billion dollars? So we'll have to see who is right in the coming months, and we'll see. So it was interesting. The governor opened his pitch and proposal with 30 minutes of celebrations. Again, kind of touting everything he's doing on homelessness and safety and mental health and all these other programs. And then really spent the last like 10 to 15 minutes talking about solutions. So very front-loaded on all the celebrations and all the great things. And then a quick, hey, here's how we're going to solve it all before he left. And then Joe came up on stage. So his solutions really come down to a couple points up here. They are reserves, revenue, and borrowing. So we know the state has built up over these past couple of years just tremendous reserves, including reserves specifically for schools. He is not supportive of any new tax, but if you look in some of the budget details that are coming out, there's some additional tax information in there, so it'll be interesting to see what he does on that. And then he also mentioned during the pitch that the state has quite a bit of borrowing capacity as well. So we'll see if they want to go out and borrow to help offset any potential increases in the deficit. So on the belt tightening piece, the governor, and actually Joe from the previous slide, issued a budget letter to all statewide departments last month. That budget letter said, hey, we need to stop spending money. And how are they going to do it? They're going to stop buying office supplies and vehicles and IT contracts and other kind of stuff. So that was a letter that they sent out, so all departments statewide kind of like started constricting spending a little bit. And then the governor talked about delays and deferrals. So the governor is proposing to delay some money to CSUs and UCs. And kind of, we've talked about what deferrals means, right? It's I'll give you $5, but it'll be in a couple months from now. So it really kind of puts the burden on those entities to kind of carry those costs for a couple of months. So what's next? Again, this really kicks off the whole session and the whole cycle for for he and the legislature to start talking about priorities and how they are going to address this deficit, whether it's 38 billion or 68 billion. And again, this really kicks off the time for them to begin their work and do those things. There's a couple more pieces that are going to come out specifically regarding the COLA over the next couple weeks, so we'll get more information on whether that 0.76 COLA is accurate or it's going to move up or down a little bit. But other than that, we'll be attending school services presentation next week where they actually get into the details over the headlines, and we'll actually see how it impacts schools. So we're at a bit of a wait and see, but we will continue to do our work and report back coming up here in a couple months.
Questions about the budget? So the deferrals that he was potentially discussing weren't K-12.
Correct. Right.
Just want to be clear about that.
Yep.
Yep,
CSU
good.
right now. CSU and UC only. Yep.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right. I believe it is back to you, Hope.
Great. Before we hit the consent agenda, shall we just check for public comments?
Absolutely. Seeing none.
With that, we have 3 items on the consent agenda tonight. Are there questions about any of those 3 items, or is there a motion to approve?
I'll move the consent agenda.
Thank you, Sean. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. Amy, will you please take the vote?
Hope,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
Amber,
Yes.
my brain is, Suzanne, Anne, or Nurali, sorry,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Anne.
Yes.
I'm gonna need everybody to sit in the same order
That's
as
right.
on my agenda next time.
You
So,
left the room, didn't you?
no,
You
someone
did?
else did it
Oh,
for me
that's
this time.
That brings us to our regular agenda item. We have one on tonight. That is approval of the 23-24 Comprehensive School Safety Plan. Do you have a slide or?
I apologize. I do not have a slide. That's my fault.
The governance committee, with the addition of, thank you, Mrs. Erickson, for coming out and serving as our staff member, met and discussed this at our last meeting. We voted and recommended that it be brought to the full board. We had one minor change that's been made, and that was just referencing the handbooks instead of board policy for uniforms, as that is no longer, that's just how we do it now. With that, I don't remember any other discussion or changes, and so we would recommend it to the board for adoption.
Any questions about the comprehensive school safety plan? Very good.
Is there a motion to approve? Thank you.
I'll move this comprehensive school safety plan.
Thank you, Sean. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Amber.
I'm having deja vu.
It's easier for the minutes.
Hope,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
Amber,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Nurali,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Anne.
Yes.
Perfect.
That was fun to watch. You couldn't get the microphone on, then she tested and went on. Yeah, I tell you. Magic. It's the magic.
Magic touch. With that, yay. I'm assuming it is Mrs. Batten doing for
It is Mrs. Batten here to present on the WASCA accreditation timeline and presentation. Welcome, Ms. Batten. Your microphone no longer works because I unplugged it to plug in Neurali's. So give me just 1 second. I will reconvene.
That fell.
Do I have to be, I don't, do I have to,
Oh, yeah, if you wanted to be on camera.
oh, I don't care to be.
Okay, we'll hear you. We'll hear you and we'll see you because this is really who you're presenting to.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Sorry, Ms. Batten. Let me put your slides up there. And we're off.
And it's been a while since I presented, I think about
yeah.
a year. And so my name is Emily Batten. I'm the Director of K-12 School Leadership. And I'm excited to come talk to you all today about our WASC process at our high school. The purpose of today's presentation is to inform on WASC as a process in general. I know that some of you have been involved in WASC processes before, but just why we are participating in WASC and what that process will look like for our school, and then also to talk through the timeline that we are currently engaged in at Westlake Charter High School. So our school has received accreditation through WASC and will continue to move towards full accreditation through the WASC process. WASC is the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. It accredits schools to ensure that they're trustworthy. And when I first read that 5 years ago, I was, what does that mean? Now having gone through our initial study and also participating in a committee that did a self-study visit last year, I now know that's what they're doing. They're going out to say, hey, they have a building. Are students showing up every day? Do you have credentialed teachers who are teaching in alignment with your goals and learning objectives for your students? And so it's this really neat system. And I know prior, again, to entering the WASC process as a participating member, I would hear people talk about it like, oh, it's just another box you have to check, right? It's this huge report you have to do. And hopefully through today's presentation, and as we continue to talk to the board about the WASC process, you'll see that Westlake Charter School is doing what we do best and making this process really work for our school to ensure that it is something that's leading us to continued growth. This process is also really collaborative, so we'll talk about who's involved, and you'll see that it's everybody at the end of the day. Our timeline, so I mentioned that we are accredited. It's been an interesting process. Back in the spring of 22, which was our first spring at Westlake Charter High School with our 9th grade classes, we engaged with WASC, and at that time, they were just coming out of COVID, beginning to kind of revive themselves. Like, you can pause. You don't have to go through your initial visit. We looked at our timeline and said, if we go through the initial visit now and we receive the accreditation we expect to receive, then that means that we will do our self-study with our first senior class, which just felt like the right story to tell. And so we pushed. Dr. Galloway was part of that initial visit as a member of the panel, and pushed to get that initial visit done in that first semester while also figuring out how to do the spring semester at high school. So again, very Westlake. Each year since that initial visit where we did receive the 3-year accreditation, meaning that we would do our self-study in the spring of 25, we have gone through what's called a substantive change. And so each year we've added a grade level. So I share that to say, if you go to WASC to see how we are accredited, you'll see that last year we were accredited for 9th and 10th grade. We completed this fall our substantive change for 11th grade. Which is a really important one. Each of those accreditations then transfers to student transcripts to ensure that they are accepted by colleges and universities. So we are now 9th through 11th grade have received accreditation. And this is the point this late fall where we began to prepare for our self-study. In a moment I'll talk a little bit more about what the self-study is. It's got its own nuances, but our self-study process began this fall in preparation for our self-study visit, or the report being due in March, and then the following visit in May. I really like this clicker situation. I feel
it's working out.
much more in control.
User expertise.
So what is the self-study? It truly is what it says. It is a study of yourself, right? We're going to be looking at our school from multiple different angles with multiple different perspectives. The self-study is a report that is 5 chapters long. I'll talk just briefly through each chapter and share what we're doing. But we're using that self-study report to build to a visit, right? We're members of schools in our area. We actually get to specify, hey, we'd love to have some people from independent charters that are of a similar size to us come and visit. We threw in there also people who have gone through the process of starting a high school. So you're getting feedback from people who understand your situation. In chapter 1, we're going to analyze and reflect upon our school's progress and that progress and how it has an impact on student learning. Chapter 2 is that community profile, like who are we, what do we look like, and we will use the chapters that we wrote in our initial visit, right? We had these same 5 chapters, much smaller versions. Well, actually not, as I say that. Some fun numbers. Our initial report was 75 pages long. We thought we're like, oh, we're doing a great job. Our self-study and under WASC new guidelines have to be 50 pages or less. So we were just talking today about, we'll see how we make that happen.
Don't let me write.
in chapter 3, we will, this is where you're going to involve many voices. Of course, throughout all these chapters, we're receiving multiple perspectives and feedback, but in chapter 3, we're going to use something called focus groups, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But you'll look at 5 key areas of our school program, and those focus groups will gather data from all stakeholders all over campus to say, hey, how are we doing these areas? Asking ourselves some really hard-hitting questions, and I think you can, again, your WASC report is intended to demonstrate all the wonderful things your school is doing. At this moment in time, though, in our high school, it has to be a really hard look at who we are and where we're intending to go and what's going really well, but then also where are our areas of growth. And so that's why this process is so exciting, that if we're truly using it as that cycle of continuous improvement, then we're able to see, okay, we talk about where are we going to turn around in the parking lot. There are 500 other questions every day. Every day, ranging from where we turn around the parking lot to when we get to what is that Math 4 going to look like for our seniors, and because we're involved in that daily, to pause as a staff and say, let's take a critical look at all 5 of these areas. It's going to be really exciting. Chapter 4 is identifying our major student learner needs, and that's really kind of saying, hey, where are those areas of growth? And then in chapter 5, we're going back and looking at our action plan. So in our initial report, we set 4 goals with our WASC coordinator along with our admin team. Our goals primarily focus on the use of flex blocks and how we're continuing to use flex blocks to meet learner needs. And there are some goals in there, Meredith and I were just talking before the meeting started, there are some goals that we may say, hey, this was a goal 3 years ago. We really thought this was something we're going to tackle, and it no longer remains a priority for us, and instead we've replaced it with this goal. In this self-study, we have 5 outcomes. We have, the process, again, is intended to have you perform a self-study, and what do you intend to get out of it? And it is much more than checking a box. I've now learned, so it's very exciting. We are looking to really identify what we're hoping to have our learner, what are our learner outcomes? What are we hoping for our students to learn? 4 years ago when we began our high school, we started with this graduate profile that took all of our core values, our pillars, the core, those documents that I know you all know inside and out, and wove those into what we hope a graduating 12th grader will look like. And so going back to that document and using that to help drive some real concrete learner outcomes will be a part of this WASC process. Oh goodness, nope, sorry friends.
There we go.
All the things came at once. There we go, okay. Oh my goodness, okay. WASC, when done correctly, involves all stakeholders. So that is looking at all the people who are part of building our high school program, who continue to be part of that process. We have this admin handbook that we wrote in the year before high school opened. It's about 120 pages, just in case anybody's taking page counts. And there are so many moments where as I look back through that book, where there are voices from people who sit in this room right now, people who have maybe never set foot on our high school, but were an integral part of our Westlake Charter School, and the intention of building our high school to be part of the K-8, built on the K-8 foundation. And so ensuring that all those voices are heard through the WASC report, our self-study report, and then also seen in that visit. Ooh, that doesn't show up as well as it, okay. The data, that we're using through our WASC self-study, we are not, it's not just anecdotal, this is what we think we're going to do, which really, as you look back to our initial report, if anybody wants to see a copy of that, we'd happily, of course, provide that copy of our initial report. We were doing a lot of, we think we will, right? We were midway through our first year, and so some things hadn't even happened yet. And so now going back and really having some data to back up what's happening and where we are. Oh no, we are such good friends, thank you. And again, it's a program review. We walk out of our WASC self-study having a solid set of next steps. We will, at the end of that self-study, be about to graduate our first group of seniors, and so to take these next steps into the next year. And if you think back to that stakeholders component, if you've done the WASC self-study correctly, then everybody who is going to help execute those next steps is well aware of their role in the execution, so that you are bringing your staff and all stakeholders along through that process. it worked now. And as we did when we finished our initial report, you're setting that action plan. So based on the data and the review of your program, you were then saying for the next 6 years, we speak it into existence that we will receive a 6-year accreditation, which is the gold standard of that self-study, that over those next 6 years, you will engage in a process to address the goals that were identified through your self-study process. Just a lot of work. I don't know if those 5 chapters and those outcomes indicate to everybody in the room that that's a bunch of work, but when you start a process 18 months before you have to complete it, I typically think that that's something that takes a lot of time. And luckily, we have quite an impressive team that will be engaging in this WASC process, and we are excited to begin that work. So we've got the admin team. They were the initial authors of the initial visit. And I think the self-study is so much, while I love the admin team, I think they're pretty amazing. The self-study, because it intentionally involves so many other voices in the writing of the report, I think it's just an exciting process to engage in. We have our WASC coordinator, the newly appointed Dr. Galloway, so we're very excited to have her at the helm of this report, and just can't wait to see the work that she leads through this WASC process. She will be a primary point of contact for both our admin team as we coordinate with WASC, and then our WASC team as well. We have a group of people, so I mentioned in chapter 3, you've got focus groups. You have those 5 areas, and we had a presentation last month with our high school team where we're like, hey, we're going to start this WASC process. We're going to be looking at curriculum, teaching and learning, assessment, organization, and culture. And they were able to look at our initial report, look at the questions that the WASC team asked us to examine through this self-study, and we asked our teachers and staff members to voluntarily elect into groups, which is always a little scary because it was like, who's going to want to jump in? And we really had a lot of support behind it. We had 75% of our high school staff who self-selected into a focus group. Those are the people who will kind of curate data. They'll work directly with Meredith to write and each of those sections in chapter 3. However, all of our staff, and that's not just high school staff, right? I mentioned that our high school is built on the foundation of our K-8, and so it will be imperative for us to have voices of our K-8 staff as well in that process. But all staff through an intentional data gathering process their voices will be heard in that WASC self-study report as well. Students are part of the process, so in your self-study you have a student panel that comes and without anybody else in the room is asked questions by the visiting committee, which is really exciting. And the visiting committee will go into like lunch sometimes in classrooms and say, I want that student and I want that student. Because sometimes schools will send you the best of the best. And however, in our last substance change visit, we had some students who were absent, and we had to do like some random pools, and it's so telling of our high school. You could really walk in any classroom, pull any student, and the way they speak about our program and their learning and their experience is pretty phenomenal.
It's true.
And then our board, our families, and other partners will also be part of this process. And so I put that on the slide to say, Dr. Galloway, myself, Mrs. McIver, our high school principal, and we reach out and ask for some feedback as we continue to begin to engage in this process. So look forward to seeing your voices there.
Can I do my interview from the high school swim meet again this time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of walk
Yes.
on the track and hear the part.
Yes.
It's COVID, so it was different.
It was all virtual. Yeah.
It was awesome
That's right.
experience.
Yeah.
So, if any board members do participate, I found it really enlightening to hear about our program. Sean, you did too, right?
Yeah. We had lots of amazing families, both families who have been part of the building of our K-8 and then some brand new to our high school families. So this team will participate in revising our initial report. They will do the data collection process. They will participate in writing the self-study, and then the self-study. Dr. Ike can speak to this. He's been through a self-study visit before. You'll hear tales of the visiting committee showing up to schools and the entire marching band coming out, like massive banquet spreads. It's a chance to put your best foot forward. You've engaged in this process for 18 months. You've really looked at your school through a critical lens. You're now ready to show that off to a committee of visiting dignitaries, if you will, and it can be a really exciting time. So again, we are excited to begin this process. We have a staff that's really excited to begin this process, an amazing leader who will be working on this, and can't wait for you all to be part of it too.
Love it. Thank you so much, Mrs. Batten. Questions about the WASC process? Comments about the facilitation of this? Anything at all? Yeah, excellent work. Thank you, Mrs. Batten. I know you have to go get Maxwell. Please go and do that. That's right. He's at rehearsal. He's in The Little Mermaid. And go pick up your seahorse. One thing I would, well, first of all, thank you, Mrs. Batten. Let's give her some love for her presentation. One thing that's critical, I think, about the having a WASC coordinator is that because this is such a collaborative process, because the voices, the board members, the family members, the students, the staff are all going to be curated through focus groups, having a singular author bring it into a singular voice is really really an important piece there, because you can read documents, these WASC documents, that aren't so well woven together by a singular voice, and it just sounds like 50 people wrote it. So I'm really looking forward to having Dr. Galloway kind of lead that. You're good. You're good. I'll get them. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Batten. I will transition us back if there are no other questions, thoughts, or concerns about WASC.
Before we get to reflection, John, would you mind doing one more check?
Oh, yeah, sure. Sure. Sha-la-la-la. La-la-la. Seeing none. Nope.
Okay. That brings us to reflection. What worked well, or what would be better if? Thank you, Sean.
I really enjoyed that presentation. Having been part of the initial thing, I'd sort of, she was talking about check boxes, I'd been like, oh, check, we're all done. And it was nice to kind of bring back like, oh no, you're not done. There's way more to go. So it was good to kind of have that brought home again.
It's good. What worked well? What would have worked better if?
I'll go next. I'll echo that. It was really nice to just see the process and hear about it. I hadn't heard it before, and what I appreciate about what she highlighted that I heard throughout the evening was just how much the staff continue to volunteer for optional opportunities to just engage in school and make it better.
Yeah.
I think she said 75% of staff volunteered, which was incredible. And then even what you shared, Steve, about how many folks came on Monday optionally. So it just really speaks to the leadership, the folks here, that folks have a strong desire to just engage. And so thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. You might leave the microphone on for Suzanne, because we know she can't turn it
It
on.
would be better if I could actually.
It'd be better if the
turn
microphone
on
worked,
the
yeah.
microphone
Agreed.
myself, but now we figured
That's
it
on me.
out.
Oh.
Appreciate all the reports and especially all the work that you're doing for the portables for the campus, and we know that that is not an easy task, but excited for you guys with WASC. I know my own school is getting ready to go through that, which is making my heart race a little bit, but it is such a great opportunity to showcase all the wonderful things that Westlake's doing. So
It's a great process. Steve, you want to play?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last conversation and presentation from Ms. Batten as well was amazing. You think back to year zero, which we called year zero, and all the progress that's happened since then. Through the leadership of Ms. Batten, Dr. Galloway, everyone at the high school, staff, right, the students in our community who've just made a great event. So, yeah, it's a good presentation.
Good stuff.
I'll echo that. I think the staff involvement is amazing. I also want to echo just kind of the work you're doing, Dr. Ike, in constantly staying in touch with our local constituents. I think that is amazing. I think it's such an important role. And then really making sure families are aware of where their involvement goes. Like the phone call from the school as a reminder of the NUSC engagements. And I think that constant being in everyone's radar is really helping out our schools. So I do appreciate that, because that really reflects when speaking to other families at other local Natomas schools, and recognizing that, oh yeah, I heard your Westlake leadership has been at this meeting and has been talking to this folk, and it's really nice to hear that. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think there were a lot of great updates tonight. I really enjoyed yours. Of course, Mrs. Batten's. I have been a little worried about finances, so it was nice to hear about what you're learning, and that I know you're constantly learning more and working on that, so we'll see how it affects us.
I'll echo what others have said. I thought like every presentation tonight was really well done. There was a lot of clarity. I really appreciate the visuals with the portables. I've been having a hard time wrapping my mind around, like, where would they go?
Should have got that. I'm sorry.
It's helpful.
I should
for
have given
me
that
to
to you
have, like,
sooner. Sorry.
Oh, they do fit.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you for that.
They fit on my Google drawing anyway. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if in reality.
It was convincing
No, it's
for
it's
me.
real. It's real.
There
It's
you
real.
go.
That's that's the scale.
It was
It
on
is,
10.
it-
It's good.
I hope it's to scale. I've been looking at that.
No, it is. It is.
Well,
It
I've been
is.
looking at that. I'll be honest. I've been looking at that one for a while.
No,
so
the
it's
architects
not-
do that.
It's
They
not
do that.
to scale now.
That's-
It's
they
too
do
late.
it.
Hope and I are believers.
I
Yeah.
know. I just what worked well for me. I'm excited that you're our WASC coordinator.
Yes.
Having been a part of the team that brought the charter forward and knowing the number of pages and what did we get through? Like 28 drafts or whatever it was. I wish you luck, and I'm excited that you're tasked with this, and I think that hearing that tonight really just helps know that we have so many great leaders bringing the process forward that I am nothing but optimistic on the outcome.
Thank you.
Amy, do you want to participate?
Yeah, it's just always amazing, and I'm just always proud of the little school that could. To see what we were when there were just 2 kinders and 2 firsts and then 3 kinders, and just, 16 years of the school and the impact that the school has had on my life personally and my children's lives and pretty much everybody's life here. It's just fun to see the little school that could grow into a really big school.
That's good.
It's cool.
I'm going to be Debbie Downer. But the question on reflection is what worked well, what would have worked better if I had every intention of creating a board brief regarding our safety committee's vote on the comprehensive school safety plan. And when I looked on the screen, I'm like, so it just would have worked better if I'd executed on my intention there to have a board brief. So I apologize for that.
It's a tricky one because the plan itself is confidential. So John, there's
I know,
no
but still, like,
easy-
you know,
I
it-
know. Brief
You want to
is
tell the board in
helpful.
advance, you're going to be voting on this thing. It's
You come to
here.
my office if you
Yeah,
want.
and I did float it to you guys 2 months ago, but it's been 2 months. So anyway, what would have worked better if you know, always priming yourself to be better,
Brainstorming is good.
be better the next
We'll
time. Amy?
Not you, Amy. Sorry.
I know, there's 2 of us now. You can call me Rice.
That's
so,
right.
what I really appreciate is just the transparency and the honesty and openness. Like when we're asking questions to be like,
I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I just really appreciate that. Not blowing smoke or gaslighting, but then there was also this like hard and fast, like, you hear it on the news, on NPR or whatever, like, oh, the budget or the governor released the budget. And then to hear like, okay, but this is the impact for us as a school and here's what it means for us. And so it was nice to like take away the catastrophizing in a way,
Yeah.
but also like, okay, like here's the reality of where we're at and here's what we don't know. And so I just really appreciate how transparent and real we are as an organization with each other. I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
So thank you to everyone who was real and transparent tonight.
On that note, you all allowing this to continue on YouTube always means a little something to me because I hear from constituents who say to me, "Hey, I don't watch the whole thing, but I scrub through, and I would never go to a board meeting, but since you're on YouTube, I'll scrub through it, and I go, hey, good on you for allowing us to continue doing that because I think it creates a transparency that's not mandated any longer."
Well, no, and I know we don't get many emails for public comment, but that's also not
Yeah, it's not
required
mandated.
of
Yeah.
us anymore. So you're right. That commitment to making sure that not just our families, but really the entire community can see what we're doing and talking about matters. With that, we will adjourn into closed session. I am required to publicly announce that we're going in under public employment for the title of Executive Director as provided for under the Government Code. I don't anticipate any report out, so this will conclude our meeting on YouTube. And thank you so much for watching.
Very good. Give me a moment to close down the YouTubes for you there. Let me hit that button and then click on that button. Now click